basically the idea is you were gonna give us an introduction as to what it's all about, and then
I thought about that. Just how it started. It started. Yeah, I can give a very quick introduction. Maybe it's not worth.
Okay.
It started actually in Saudi Arabia in the late 80s, and most activists were there at that time, coming from Islamic studies universities, schools, and nobody was really from another discipline like physics and mathematics and coming from that area. And they had some interaction with, in some conferences, some comments, which became very viral. Went on cassette. At that time, the cassette was king. And then also, I gave a couple of talks, which I recorded somewhere. They may be still available somewhere, about the intellectual struggle and political struggle and things like that, and about basic principles of Islam, things of this category. And some people, activists at the time, activism started, and with communiques and so on, the famous development which happened in Saudi Arabia. And someone suggested, since you don't come from a so-called Sharia background or non-secular background, it will be good to introduce it to the public by writing a book of Tawheed. I thought, yeah, okay, no. But then I checked then with a friend in King Saud University. I will not mention his name because he's still alive there, and he's could be relatively in danger. He's from Hizb originally, and I think he still is, maybe. And then we discussed the matter, and then we thought, no, we have to do revamping the Book of Tawheed, Muhammad al-Wahhab. It's really a miserable book. It's a joke. Strangely enough, a whole system and the whole movement is based on such a mockery of saying human being, essentially. Book of Tawheed. Thin book, it needs so many explanatory notes and so on. قرة عيون الموحدين بشرح كتاب etc. شرح كتاب التوحيد, and so various explanatory notes, and they keep new explanatory notes and edit the old ones and so on. Never becomes much better because the fundamental premises are wrong. So I started with this doctor, with this brother, and we were working on it, and then we checked all people writing about Tawheed. There were some Shia writers who have the subdivision, including Hakimiyya, al-Uluhiyyah, Rububiyyah, etc. And then we noticed Khaliqiyyah and things like that.
From
we noticed that the matter has to be checked deeply. So we're working together on a version of Tawheed, of Book of Tawheed. Because he has insomnia, so I was working with him over every Thursday night. At that time, the night from Wednesday to Thursday, because Thursday is a holiday at that time. So it's Thursday and Friday. So I stay with him until Fajr, and we go pray Fajr, and then everyone goes home after that. So the morning of Thursday is then we are sleeping until noon, essentially. And we wrote down and so on. Then there came the various activities and the detention and the prison and so on. And his father is quite, rahmatullah alayhi, is quite chicken. He chickened out and then came to his house. He was not detained. He was not in the front. And got all the books and things and burned them. I was afraid to find any papers there. So that was gone. Came out of prison, barely preparing to get out, came here. I could not really get that, so I tried to get it from memory, start writing from memory, and then developed there. And I have the first edition, which is relatively trivial, which was adopted by Sheikh Umar Bakr Muhammad in some halaqas. It was actually printed. It was printed by a printer in Ch1 Road or in Arrow Road. And then after that, I worked on it, essentially completed the oldest version by 2005 or 6, which is never printed. It was PDF, one volume, including everything, including the appendices, because I divided it in a part 1, which is the usul and so on, and evidences. Part 2, the various details of Tawheed issues. Part 3 will be the etiquettes and issues like tawakkul, like spirituality and things like that. It is Tawheed. And part 4 is appendices. And then I noticed that there are still some fundamental flaws which do not go really in full depth. The issues there. So I started going back to the various chapters, part 1 and part 2 until chapter 12. And until now, you notice maybe this is this one which you have. In English, it's up to chapter 3. And then chapter 4 will come in the second volume. And then 5, 6, 7, details of Tawheed. Hakimiyyah may come separately because I wrote a book about Hakimiyyah. Anyway, I worked on it and decided then, no, we have to go to the absolute zero. Absolute zero meaning go to Quran and Sunnah Mutawatir, especially Quran, and scan every word, what its meaning, the context, and so on. And really, and also this section about Shirk al-Arab, scanning history books, various myths of the Babylonian, the Semites, etc., and so on, Canaanites, all of these things, to see how much of that leaked to Arabia, especially North Arabia, and how much is indigenous in South Arabia, and so on. That's in Shirk al-Arab, and clarify certain issues which obviously the Wahhabi made absolute blunders in them, in the historical aspects. And then it got its final shape. I never went over up to editing and expanding up to chapter 11. 11 and 12 are still in final working. They are not even finished in Arabic. Up to 10 is finished. And then, obviously, it became extremely mature and thorough. And then the Khalid and so the others and Nazimuddin decided it's a good idea to get it translated, but they decided to make the translation not very literally, rather, and use footnotes and so on, more the Western style. Well, I don't like footnotes, honestly. I prefer to have the references in parentheses in the body, but that's the classical, old-fashioned way. So you are not referring to anywhere. Everything is in the body, but that's what they think. That's for the Western taste. This style is the better one. Okay, and they removed many of the isnads which are not needed for the Western audience and so on. And that's what you have in between your hand. So it has been developed now. I would say in issues of definition of Ibadah, definition of Rububiyyah, Uluhiyyah. I would say to the level of almost mathematical precision. Very strict, very formal, very thorough. And that one, inshallah, we'll be exploring. Except chapter 1, which is a general hand-waving introduction about civilization, urbanization, things like that, culture, general definition.
Has joined the meeting alert.
One other idea when I came here, they said, okay, let us develop it so that it will be a good substitute for the major portion or the most part of Nizam al-Islam of Sheikh TajdeedRevival. Because those who were in Hizb, Nizam al-Islam is very dry and it's supposed to be like an abridged version to be discussed and expanded in halaqas. Now, no halaqas were feasible anytime soon for our movement, Tajdeed. There was no halaqa expected, and we are outside of the domain, really, the domain of work and so on. So a substitute for Nizam al-Islam should be something which is sufficiently expanded so that it can be read independent. It does not mean that studying it and discussing it in halaqas is not beneficial. It is indeed, but it can be studied alone. So that was an improvement over Nizam al-Islam. And that's the reason also the introduction of culture, civilization, etc. under the first chapter, which is called Deen and Dunya. What's the meaning of Deen and Dunya? And which is like an introduction, or what's the position of believing in Allah, Day of Judgment, in relation to your position in the universe. Okay, so that's just quick history. I think now it has reached a solid level of almost mathematical precision.
Has joined the
So
meeting
let's
alert.
start ala barakatillah. So what was the format? Someone would read, you write?
Yes,
or so?
I'll read. I mean, it's not a problem. And yeah, so the introduction is basically your general introduction about the reasons. I mean, this pretty much covers what you've said.
Yeah, but just read the introduction again, because it was written, especially addressing the Wahhabi.
Okay.
I left it like that, and they used in the Arabic, the language is relatively much harsher and sharper against the Wahhabi in the Saudi regime. Okay, so read it.
Inshallah. I'll embellish it as well. Okay. All praise and thanks are due to Allah. We praise Him and ask Him for help and forgiveness. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil within ourselves and our conduct. Whomsoever Allah guides, none can mislead, and whomsoever He sends astray, none can guide. Whoever obeys Allah will be righteously guided, and whoever disobeys Allah and His Messenger will definitely stray afar. I bear witness there is no multiple gods or deities, but there is only Allah alone. He has no partner, consort, or offspring, and I bear witness that Muhammad ﷺ is His servant and messenger, the most beloved of all mankind. And this ayah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa takatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. O you who believe, be mindful of Allah as is His due, and make sure you devote yourselves to Him to your dying moment. That is ayah 3102, Surah Al-Imran. And next ayah, Ya ayyuhan nasu taqu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahidatin wa khalaqa minha zawjaha wa batha minhuma rijalan kathiran wa nisaa wattaqullaha alladhi tasaaluna bihi wal arhama and inna Allaha kana alaykum raqiba. O mankind, be mindful of your Lord, who created you from a single soul, and from it created its mate, and from the pair of them spread countless men and women far and wide. Be mindful of Allah, in whose name you make.
Showcat has left the meeting.
In whose name? Sorry. From his mate, and from the pair of countless men and women, and be mindful of Allah, in whose name you make requests of one another. Beware of severing ties of kinship. Allah is always watching over you. Okay, so let's have a look. Next ayah is Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wa qulu qawlan sadidan yuslih lakum a'malakum wa ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. O you who believe, be mindful of Allah, speak in a direct fashion and to good purpose, and He will put your deeds right for you and forgive you your sins. Whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger will truly achieve a great triumph. So the previous ayah was Nisa 4:1, and this one is Surah 33, 70 and 71. Truly, the best of speech is the Book of Allah, and the best guidance is that from Muhammad ﷺ. The worst of things are those that are newly invented without legal precedent. It is but a bid'ah, innovation, and all innovation results in misguidance. May the peace, blessings, and greatest salutations be upon Muhammad ﷺ, the best example and role model sent forth to all mankind. And may the blessings of Allah also be upon his noble family, his companions, their successors, and all those who strive in the path of Allah. To proceed, this treatise represents a study into the very root origins of Islam, the essential nature of Tawheed, monotheism, its proof as found in the Quran, and that which has been established by the authentic Sunnah. Consequently, the title that has been chosen for this work is Kitab At Tawheed, Asas al-Islam wa Haqiqat At Tawheed, the Book of Monotheism, the basis of Islam and the reality of monotheism. There are a number of reasons why this study was prepared, among them the following. Firstly, the age-old problem concerning the precise nature of Ibadah, worship, and its exact relationship with the concept of al-Ilah, the deity. Many have misunderstood this, resulting in an extremely unsatisfactory answer, which has led them to accuse the people of the Qibla of Shirk, polytheism, which takes one outside the fold of the religion. Closely followed by this was an unsound analysis and judgment by many of what actually constitutes shirk, resulting in one exiting the fold of Islam, which is a very serious matter indeed. Such line of reasoning has been extremely dangerous, particularly when it has proceeded upon the basis of proofs that are neither decisive in nature and have more often than not been blatantly misapplied. Given the seriousness of this topic, there cannot be room for difference or interpretation. Foundational principles must be based upon definitive evidences reaching the level of certitude. Secondly, the confused, ill-disciplined tripartite division of Tawheed, which is espoused by the sect of Wahhabism, namely Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, monotheism of lordship, Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, monotheism of worship, and Tawheed al-Asma wal-Sifat, monotheism of names and attribute. Putting Tawheed into this classification originates with the Shaykh and Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, rahmatullah alayh. Indeed, the mistakes which underpin his reasoning for placing Tawheed into this division are heinous, as are those made by Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, MIAW for abbreviated, who followed him in this regard, taking the division as being sacrosanct. The disorder in understanding ultimately lies with Ibn Taymiyyah, Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, and his tripartite division, which, as we will show in this treatise, is fundamentally flawed. In fact, the decisive truth regarding the tripartite division is that it is seriously misleading and below par for a division befitting in Islam. Several reasons can be advanced to demonstrate this. Firstly, the meaning of the words used to propound the conventional Wahhabi tripartite definition is fallacious and invalid. These are not rooted in classical Arabic in which the Quran was revealed, and they are neither found in legal custom, which always furnishes the linguistic custom. Deep-rooted flaws exist within the reasoning advanced with respect to uluhiyah, none more so than the implied logic that the existence of a deity is somehow contingent upon those that undertake the performance of worship towards it. Undoubtedly, this is from the statements of disbelief, kufr. May Allah protect us from that. As will be demonstrated with decisive proofs and evidences, the rejection of which would result in disbelief and ultimate exit from the fold of Islam. Sheikh, this is quite a unequivocal statement. Would you like to expand on this, or would you like to get into the text?
Continue. No, this is just an introduction what the book will be doing all detail, not expanding in anything. Expanding is the book.
Okay, bit of controversy for you to drum up some support. Without accurately describing the reality of shirk as it existed amongst the pre-Islamic Arabs, it is false and misleading. Without accurately describing the reality of shirk as it existed among the pre-Islamic Arabs, it is false and misleading. However, it goes further in that it stubbornly clings to the false understanding that the pre-Islamic Arabs did not have shirk in the realm of rububiyyah, lordship. In doing so, it represents a denial of knowledge that is known by necessity from history, which has reached us by way of tawatur, continuous recurrent transmission, and a study of such reports. Taking such a line of argumentation, which is born of obsession, often psychosis, to its natural conclusion, ultimately would require one to claim that the Quran is founded upon a lie, which is without question a statement of disbelief. This is an inverted or upside-down logic to their claim that rububiyyah entails or requires worship, uluhiyyah, and not the opposite. The analysis upon which the tripartite division is derived is ill-conceived in that its various subdivisions are not distinct and they overlap. The purported definition is not succinct enough to withstand the ideas being haphazardly inserted into each category that are not essentially based upon the principles of Tawheed. For example, concerning the Sifat, divine attributes, these are in actual fact a branch of Tawheed and not a standalone principle or an independent division by itself. Such points must be made in the face of the extremism resulting from the sect of Wahhabism, whose adherents are experts in futility and superficiality, opposing thought and reason at every juncture. Through their rejection of the sound use of reason, thought and research, they revert to ignorance, basking in obtuseness while falsely clinging to a notion that they are the Salafiyah. It is neither conclusive nor comprehensive in its divisions or constituents. Other important aspects of Tawheed are completely omitted. For example, issues relating to Tawheed ad-Dhat, monotheism of the divine entity, and its principal attributes are entirely absent, as are matters relating to any points concerning the attribution of a consort, spouse, or offspring. Tawheed Hakimiyyah, monotheism relating to governance and the pejorative of command, which is one of the pinnacles of Tawheed, an area of contention between many prophets and their respective nations, is notably absent as well.
Yeah, carry on.
Sorry,
Iran has joined the meeting alert.
Placing Tawheed Hakimiyya into the tripartite division cannot be done cleanly and in a way that is not artificial. As a result of the above, a great lie has ensued, which has been used to wage a campaign of takfir upon the people of Islam, and the major sin of striking them with the sword and justifying their blood to be spilt. This is besides many other difficulties and problems which have also arisen as a result. Several problems have emerged during the period of time which followed the end of the last caliphate and the conversion of the whole world into Darul Kufr, domain of disbelief. These problems were about the reality of Tawheed, its sections, and how it corresponds to contemporary issues like ruling, governance, and allegiance, Tawheed Hakimiyya and Tawheed al-Mawa'ala wal-Mu'ada,
allegiance and hostility, or war and peace.
Such problems resulted from weakness and faults of the aforementioned tripartite division. Further compounding this situation was the work of government scholars, rabbinical sycophants and soothsayers descending from the tradition of prophet killing. Openly standing at war with Allah, they have sought to amplify these problems as well as mislead the public, all the while acting in private service to their masters, the leaders of kufr and tyrannical oppression. They have brazenly changed the laws of the Sharia, being the enemies of the awliya of Allah. They have aligned themselves with the enemies of Allah, fighting the Muslims under the banner of disbelief, all for a pitiful transient monetary world gain. Thus they have betrayed and breached the heavenly covenant. وَإِذْ أَخَذَ اللَّهُ مِيثَاقَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ
تبينونه للناس ولا تكتمونه
لا تكتمونه
فنبذوه وراء ظهورهم
واشتروا به ثمنا قليلا فبئس ما يشترون. And Allah took a pledge from those who were given the scripture. Make it known to people, do not conceal it. But they tossed a pledge over their shoulders. They bartered it for a small price. What a bad bargain they made. The tyrants of the Arabian Peninsula, the House of Saud, are at the forefront of this campaign. Seeking to change the Sharia laws at any opportunity, they align themselves with hostile, disbelieving forces openly at war with Islam and actively supporting them against Muslims under their banner and chain of command. Such tyrannical rulers exceed all bounds and have surpassed all their fellow rulers in this regard, who are themselves rulers as of darkness, yokes around the necks of Muslims. Is it any surprise, therefore, that the enemies of Islam have been able to base their forces in the Arabian Peninsula, the very heartlands of Islam? From these bases, they laid siege to Iraq for many years. Thereafter, they occupied it, wreaking untold carnage upon its people, humiliating them in the most brutal of ways. All the while, the House of Saud remains aloof, their scholars, modern-day clergy, cling to their tales, being part and parcel of this grand deception. These scholars, who are the lackeys of the tyrannical rulers of the Arabian Peninsula, are not a disparate group. Rather, they are a religious institution, an essential component in the oppressive state apparatus. In terms of their organizational structure, funding, and indeed modus operandi, they differ very little from the Catholic Church of the Middle Ages. Hence, the Kibar al-Ulama, the Council of Senior Scholars, have deservedly earned their true title, that of the Church of Najd. The council, being more reflective of the College of Cardinals, expend great ink in support of their Pope, the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia, who is in effect a minister of state by virtue of salary and rank, through holding the position of chair of the Standing Committee for Scholarly Research, issuance of religious edicts, propagation and guidance. The ruling system upon which the House of Saud is built is a system built upon kufr and shirk, a satanic system rotten to its core. Given the oddity of its political setup, it is more akin to a mafia state, founded upon criminality and a systematic looting of the wealth of the Muslims. The state treasury is viewed as nothing more than a family bank account, a mechanism for the self-enrichment of the mafia elite. Has history ever witnessed a similar gross and vulgar system, one built around the greed of the ruling family, whose involvement in the drug trade, organized prostitution, alcohol, arms dealing, and money laundering is well known? For that reason, their grand scholars are nothing more than hypocrites. They brazenly deceive the masses in order to protect the power base of the house of al-Saud. Tawheed for them is a distorted idea, a Tawheed divorced from life, solely concerned and revolving around the dead, hence their obsessive preoccupation with graves, tombs, and the like. This is even to the extent that they boastfully claim their destruction of all Islamic antiquities as objects of polytheism. In actuality, they are trying to destroy Tawheed, replacing it with a fixation of graves and the realms of the deceased. Writing in Mudarij al-Salikin, Ranks of the Divine Seekers, Imam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawzi succinctly summed up their pitiful condition. In particular, those in power who follow the demands of establishing their power by any means necessary, right or wrong, and when truth comes in the way of their power, they crush it and trample over it with their feet, feeling that they repel it with tyranny, failing that they repel it with tyranny, failing that they capture in its path and divert it to another. They are prepared to go to any length to repel it. Finally, if they find it ineluctable, they grant it the mint and the sermon and deprive it of any effective power, authority, or promulgation. If, on the other hand, the truth happens to be on their side, in their favor, they protect and hover around it, coming to it submissively, not because it is the truth, but because it happens to agree with their ends and desires, and to recruit it to their ends. And when they are summoned to Allah and His Messenger in order for Him to judge between them, some of them turn away. If they were claiming their right, they would come willing. If they were claiming their right, they would come willingly to the Prophet ﷺ. Do they have sickness in their hearts? Are they full of doubts? Do they fear that Allah and His Messenger might deal with them unjustly? No, it is they who are the unjust ones. These are the words of the esteemed scholar Ibn Qayyim. May Allah be pleased with him. Truly, it is a beautiful characterization of what they consider as vexatious. If one were in doubt concerning this, consider the announcement made by the treacherous priests and groups of innovators that peddle their views, the self-appointed and proclaimed people of Sunnah and Hadith, helpers of Muhammad Sallallahu Sunnah and troops of the Sahaba, let alone the publications which they freely distribute, entitled Obedience to Ar-Rahman is an Obedience to the Ruler, the heresy and fitna of al-Qutubiyah in reference to Sayyid Qutb, and Hakimiyah and the fitna of Takfir. ومنهم من يقول إذن لي ولا تفتني ألا في الفتنة فتنتي سقطوا وإن جهنم محيطة بالكافرين. Some of them said, give me permission to stay at home. Do not trouble me. They are already in trouble. Hell will engulf the disbelievers. Recent history is littered with horrible disasters and vile massacres that the people of Islam endured at the hands of barbarous Wahhabi groups, whether from the armed criminal group known as the GIA in Algeria, all the way to Daesh, ISIS, and TTP, Taliban, Pakistan of today. This also includes other organizations affiliated falsely to Al-Qaeda or the global jihad, few of whom actually display any mercy. They have abandoned the fight against the warriors and aggressors from the people of idolatry, turning their swords instead against the people of Islam, brazenly slaughtering women and children and the ordinary peaceful citizens who themselves suffer immeasurably at the hands of tyranny. Know without doubt, nay with certain knowledge, that the Wahhabi sect is a renegade sect that descends from the Khawarij al-Azraqiyah, who perished previously. They are, according to scholarly consensus, upon manifest misguidance and were the bloodiest people of Nahrawan. And indeed, we are furnished also with the statement made by the Imam and established proof Abu Muhammad Ali ibn Hazm, may Allah be pleased with him, in his seminal work, Al-Fisal fil Milal wal-Nihal. The separator concerning religions, heresies, and sect. But al-Azraqiyah, they were ignorant Arabs like cattle, they are on the path of misguidance. The Wahhabi sect is a subdivision from the Khawarij al-Azraqiyah. For indeed they are like cattle and are on a path of clear misguidance. May Allah protect us all from that. We appeal to Allah, the Exalted and Majestic, to make this book useful and to guide us in order that all our deeds be sincere, seeking Him alone. He has the power of all things. May the salutations, blessings, and peace of Allah be upon His messenger and servant Muhammad ﷺ, and on his virtuous family and faithful companions until the day of judgment. Praise be to Allah, Lord of all the worlds. Professor Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Masri.
What's the date there? Did they put the date?
There's no date put on this one.
They should have, so that would be like good, no problem. Date should be.
Let me see if there's a date on this one. No, not on the original either. Okay. But it's timeless.
It should be under the signature still, because things may change and so on.
Okay. Sorry, Abu Mahab wants to say something. Abu Mahab, far away.
General. Okay, so they translated it as harsh as it was, essentially.
Good.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum, Professor. So I have two comments to make here. First, on regarding point 3, when you said that there's an inverted or upside down logic to the claim that lordship, rububiyyah, requires uluhiyyah, which is completely the opposite. So this is problematic. This upside down logic is very problematic when coming to the ayahs, for example, that we passed on yesterday, when Iblis said to Allah, Rabbi bima aghwaytani لأقعدن لهم صراطك المستقيم. So indeed, this is very problematic, because I even have some written sayings from the scribe of Ibn Abdul Wahhab, which is the second ruler of the first Saudi state, Abdul Aziz bin Muhammad. You know, he used to write a religious pamphlet and distribute it to everyone. He acknowledged through his corrupt logic that Iblis, he admitted to the monotheism of rububiyyah. So yeah, absolutely, I can show you this right. So he says that that the problem with Iblis is that he did not fulfill tawheed of uluhiyyah, the tawheed of worship. Yeah, he says that rububiyyah was fulfilled by Iblis. So here we have like an upside down logic, and if we go if we extend it,
Wahab,
yeah,
you're going in the book now. That's the job to be done. I'm just
sure. Okay.
I'm just give the that's the headline. That's just that's the muqaddimah. That's the muqaddimah.
Sure. So the second point I also wanted to make, which is, I'll make it quick this time, regarding point number 6. Indeed, that there are the monotheism is not only limited to this tripartite division, uluhiyyah, rububiyyah, asma' sifat. But from scanning the Quran, we have tawheed of hakimiyyah, tawheed of mulk, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said وَلَا يُشْرِكُ فِي حُكْمِهِ أَحَدًا. And even we have like something very obvious, but people decide to not look into it, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah An-Nas that everyone memorizes, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ مَلِكِ النَّاسِ إله الناس.
Yes.
So Tawheed al-Mulukiyya is mentioned here due to its importance, and subhanallah, the division is put in order. So first of all, the Tawheed of Rububiyyah is the pinnacle point of monotheism.
But that's the
then
book.
comes,
You are preempting the book. We'll go into
sure.
We'll go in full detail, complete detail.
Okay. We'll
Spoiler alert.
Thank you.
Spoiler alert. Okay. Shall I start with the first formal chapter then?
Okay. The whole volume is devoted to that. Even actually that volume we're studying is just only the usul. Okay, so we'll go to the first chapter. That's just introduction, so that people see that there is a problem. What's the problem? It will be expanded in full, in detail, just like a starter, like just have a taster, what to come with its evidences and detail, and discussing things word for word, letter for letter, etc. Bismillah. Next, now we come to the book. That's just an introduction.
Cash C has joined the meeting alert.
Which is like just a rant against the Wahhabi mostly, and also Madkhali, obviously, as the main section of active Wahhabis nowadays, etc. But also there's the bloodthirsty Daesh, etc. and the so-called jihadi Wahhabi and that. So just to start with the rant, and the people have to go inside to see the evidence then, point for point. Okay, first chapter.
Religion, part 1, religion and worldly life.
I would have written Deen, or the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the entry, but the point 1, Deen and Dunya, they put that as well.
Deen and Dunya, yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Islam does not necessarily have a direct corresponding word for what is conveyed by the English term religion.
Okay. Mhm.
This is particularly the case when the word is set in the context of common parlance. The term employed is deen, which means a comprehensive way of life, that is a specific way of living based upon a comprehensive belief regarding the universe, man, and life, and its relationship with what precedes it, i.e. Allah the Almighty, and with what succeeds it, i.e. the Day of Judgment. Deen does not only regulate the relationship between man and Allah and identify some of the moral values and individual properties, but it is also a comprehensive regulation of man's life in its entirety. Thus, there is a clear distinction between this and the Western concept of religion, which is limited to very specific areas of life. In the West, since the revolutions of the 17th and 18th centuries, as well as the age of, in brackets, enlightenment, religion is viewed solely as being a collection of rituals through which man has a personal relationship with the supernatural. Yet for Muslims, the term deen is far wider, addressing the following: man's relationship with Allah regarding beliefs, rituals, and designated acts of worship. Number 2, man's relationship with himself concerning knowledge, intention, emotions, love, hate, loyalty, etc., manners, food, clothing, and even extends to beautifying and adorning oneself. Number 3, man's relationship with other human beings, including A, family relations such as marriage, kinship, and inheritance. B, private or civil relations, that is, relations with other individuals concerning contracts, transactions, industry, agriculture, exchange of services in trade, institutions, and corporations. C, public relations such as between the ruler and the ruled, constitutional relations, relations with public authorities, the constitution of the state, the judicial system, and the penal code. Evidences, punishments, in brackets, public funds, legislation concerning land, tax, general taxation and excise duty, public ownership, etc. D, international relations, like those concerning independent groups, nations, and countries with regards to treaty provisions, jihad, envoys, and embassies. Number 4, man's relationship with other creatures, such as animals, plants, inanimate objects, and the environment historically. Conversely, worldly life, dunya, in this context means the empirical nature of the universe as it is, without any value judgments being formed. It is worth noting that the following are considered to be related to the worldly matters. Number 1, natural sciences such as physics, chemistry, botany, and other sciences that are concerned with the laws of the physical world, which involve the use of experimentation, observation, sense perception, and reason. Number 2, the application of these sciences in the fields of engineering, agriculture, and medicine, and their related skills, handicrafts, and arts, such as shipping, smithcraft, architecture, etc. Number 3, methods of making and increasing wealth by various means, such as grazing, hunting, planting, manufacturing, and trading, as well as sciences related to circulating money and funds and the nature of markets. That is the science of economics. All these sciences are considered related to worldly matters, or dunya. All the permissible means of earning money and channel through which it can be spent, and all means of distributing wealth in society, referred to as the economic system or economic policy, are not related to worldly matters, but relate rather to religious matters, for they are certainly related to the perception of life, which is the comprehensive belief regarding the universe, man, life, and its relationship with what precedes and what succeeds it. Allah the Exalted and Ever Majestic revealed obligatory Sharia legal judgments that must be followed and for which man will be held accountable on the day of resurrection. This reckoning results in either eternal happiness, which lies in the pleasure of Allah and enjoying the delights of paradise, or in permanent misery and damnation, which is in the wrath of Allah, the Almighty, and the severe torment of hell. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sheikh. Okay, so that's the first. So
I think this is it's clear. It's just expansion of the issue of dunya and deen and so on. We'll continue.
Professor, can I make a quick comment here as well? So here I find that there is somehow a connection between deen and dunya. So first of all,
it will come. We start to specify what is deen and dunya, and then yeah.
Okay.
Welcome.
Okay.
Also, in the mention of sciences, would something like Kalam fall into that in philosophy? Because you mentioned maths, in terms of studying things as they are.
Studying, for example, the necessity existing as an objective reality and so on. That's a science.
Okay.
Yeah, but what should be believed, and it will be asked Yawm al-Qiyamah, that's a part of the deen. Will come.
I got one brother who wants to ask a question. If it's related, I'll allow it. It's fine, inshallah. Yeah, can you can unmute, bruv?
That's all this is to introduce the hadith. You are more competent to judge the affairs of your dunya, but your deen is to me. What meaning dunya there? What's mean deen there? So that's maybe just we continue discussion, and then when we come to a crucial point of application or distinction, then we get there. Yeah.
Okay. If I'm far away,
yeah.
Okay. It was just a quick question. We might be coming to it. So the things you mentioned that, the understanding of religion and deen and all the parts of it. I heard that a long time ago, brother, Hizb ut-Tahrir, he used to say, well, Hizb ut-Tahrir is the only party which makes a distinction between culture and civilization. So is this...
Will come. That's will come.
That's coming in. That's coming in.
Yeah, just a quick spoiler. I mean, there is a slight distinction there. A lot of this is very similar to what the Hizb says in terms. Actually, one question about the Hizb always divide not religion. They always put an emphasis on mebda, ideology, as being religion. How accurate is that statement?
Don't worry about this. We'll come to that also. We'll come.
Okay.
How to define things and so on. Yeah.
Okay, inshallah.
That Islam is an ideology. Is not a religion. The West, this is a deen, which is essentially ideology, a way of life, a vision of the universe, and how to sort yourself inside the universe. While dunya, to summarize with one catchword or catchphrase, dunya is the world or the life as it is, and deen is the life or the world as it should be, how you behave to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Should be meaning there's certain purpose. Dunya, no purpose. Reality, for example, an animal is living, you study anatomy, you study physiology, and so on. The question, how to deal with the animal, to treat it, eat it, not eat it, what you should do with it, that's an issue of deen.
Okay, this is
and
chapter
more
2.
Examples will come.
Okay. Chapter 2, Urbanization, Civilization, and Culture.
So before that, to what's dunya is the universe as it is, or the reality as it is, studying it as it is. That's an objective science. It is done by experimentation, by the metaphysical aspects, maybe by logical analysis and so on. That's a science. The question is that, for example, the deen is that how should I behave in dunya? For example, I could do agriculture and so on. Let me give a clear example, more clarifying example. We know that we can improve the meat production and milk production by crossing animals, yeah, by what they call
cross-fertilization,
cross-fertilization, hybridization. In recent time, a methodology was developed to take the semen from a bull, for example, and fertilize very distinct cow. You can take the semen of a bull in Argentina and get it to Sweden and do that job. That's science, how to do it safely and cleanly so that minimal damage to the animals has happened and minimal pain, etc., etc., etc. That's science. Is that allowed, not allowed? That's another question. For animals, it's allowed. Because the basic rule of permissibility. For human, it's not allowed. There cannot be any that you can do it for human as a physical reality. Yes, you can, but are you allowed to do it? Is it permissible? It is not. No man can, no semen can fertilize a woman whatsoever unless this one who's giving the semen is in a legal relation to that woman. Period. Full stop. Nothing can be done about that at all unless you leave Islam and embrace kufr. So there cannot be human semen's bank of outside fertilization. But you can very well do the fertilization from the husband to the wife. That's well permissible because he has the right to fertilize, but for some kind of anatomic or injuries, it's not possible in the direct, natural way, simple way. It is done by taking the semen and process it and so on. You can also do in vitro fertilization for animals and for human. Is it permissible for human? Only with the Sharia condition that the semen comes from a legitimate husband. That's number one. Secondly, that all precautions are taken care of, that it doesn't cause any harm for the mother in the first place and for the future embryo, etc. Okay, things like that. So this is the different aspects. It's the same. The studying fertilization as a science and hybridization is as a perfect science. You study it and you know that it can be done this way. This is how the universe works. But can it be done for human or for animal or for this? That's another question. It had to be said that the fact that you can do it does not mean it's permissible to do it in a Sharia sense. And there will be no question Yawm al-Qiyamah about it. No, that's not the way it works. That's one example. So the science of let's say breeding is a technology used by people in agriculture, animals, etc. So breeding animals to have certain characteristics and traits. How to do it is well known. You can. It's well known how to do it and how to choose and then cross out and so on. Or you can accept the process by artificial breeding and things like that. That's fine. But is it allowed and what's the limitation? That's a question of Sharia. That's a question of Deen, not a question of Dunya. Okay?
Okay, chapter 2. Urbanization, civilization, and culture.
No, he's calling chapter. It's actually section.
Okay.
The whole title of religious and worldly affairs. What was the section level? Is it called?
It was part 1, and then
okay, they call it part. Okay.
Yeah, so Deen Dunya was chapter 1 within part 1, and this is chapter 2
so
within.
This what I call section in Arabic. What part is okay. Mm-hmm.
Madaniyyah urbanization is a total sum of the material manifestations of human activities that include the experimental and observatory sciences, the applied sciences, and related skilled disciplines of the arts and crafts. Based upon this clear definition, it becomes apparent that urbanization in origin
this is my invention, because usually Hizb talk about Madaniyyah and culture, Hadara, and in Hadara you have to split between culture, Hadara, and Thaqafa. And the same with the word civilization in English contains both culture and urbanization. So I wanted to separate the material part, which is not connected to the world point of view on the world. The reason for that is to see what can you take from the urbanization of other countries or other religions, other societies, while you cannot take from their hadara, their culture, or from their civilization in general sense. But because the word civilization contains both, that creates a problem in what can be adopted, what can be transferred, what can be transferred. So I tried to separate it and invented the word urbanization. Urban means city, but same like Medina, but more general. The dwellings which humans live together in not a village level or nomad level is called urbanization. Urban. So this is my own invention. That's this part. It's just to try to clean Madaniyyah. Hizb call it Madaniyyah essentially, and separate Hadara from Madaniyyah. I separated even Madaniyyah itself is still because Madaniyyah is really a translation of civilization, and it has both components. So I separated them in urbanization and civilization. Let's go ahead, read it. So just because you may have never heard the word urbanization. Okay.
So it's more like
this is
technology.
This purely invention.
But it alludes to more technology and.
But that's what Hizb called Madaniyyah Amma, and then Madaniyyah Khawf. We'll get to that, yeah. So it's science, technology, profession connected to that, etc. Skills, how to train, things like that.
Based upon this clear definition, it becomes apparent that urbanization in origin and in principle.
You don't read the definition. Urbanization again is?
Okay. Madaniyyah, urbanization is a total sum of the material manifestations of human activities that include the experimental and observatory sciences, the applied sciences, and related skill disciplines of the arts and crafts.
Training, etc. Yeah.
Based upon this clear definition, it becomes apparent that urbanization in origin and in principle is universal, general, unbiased, and has nothing to do with a specific perception or viewpoint of life. Urbanization is also essentially similar in all nations regardless of their beliefs and culture. Therefore, it is possible for a Muslim to borrow it from any place and apply it in any manner he wishes to, as long as it does not contradict any specific Sharia legal text, and that he is totally aware and permanently cautious of its possible cultural contamination with biased beliefs and doctrines. There is also a special or specific urbanization that is related to and influenced by a perception of life. This type of urbanization is uniquely related to a specific nation or peoples, and Muslims should neither borrow nor copy it. This special urbanization includes the arts of dancing, painting, sculpture, acting, theatrical performance, and the like. It also includes some professions such as prostitution, Allah forbid, as well as certain physical sports, amusement and entertainment, like bullfighting.
Is a profession, and there's in certain societies there's a way to train prostitute, train to be a good escort, etc. This is human activity, no doubt about that, and this part should be under urbanization and in that general definition. But because this is connected inevitably to a certain prohibition, because there's no permission at all for a woman to have any cohabitation except with a legitimate husband. So training her to be an escort is meaning training her to have relation with a non-husband, and this is prohibited. So the training itself becomes then excluded because of that. Not because training per se, like training how to run, how to jump, how high jump and low jump. That's okay, because the activity itself cannot be conceived to be haram. But this one, the activity for which the training is happening, is prohibited by a specific Sharia injunction. Like I gave the example of prostitution because it's very clear, or being escort. There are schools for escorting, or school for dancing. Yeah, etc.
Holy has joined the meeting alert.
Okay.
That's a training. It's like training anything else. But the problem is that if this training is to how to dance, for example, let's say valser. That's clearly there's the embracement and so on.
Mashallah.
And this is definitely not allowed.
How creative arts could or would play out in an Islamic
So
setting.
that's exclude that from be an urbanization which we can take over. There is massive training for these dancers in ballets and so on, like. And it's regards some of a high level of sophistication in Russia, especially the Bolshoi theater, the prima ballerina and so on. We cannot adopt that because training for ballet means essentially there may be part of the training can be regarded as a sport to strengthen the knees and so on, and that may be, but it has to be clearly as a subsection, and this subsection can be adopted, but not so that it will lead to the issue, which is really essentially just displaying of the bodily forms and so on as a valsa. Anyway, each area like that can be analyzed and subdivided, which part can be adopted and so on for which purpose. Because it's definitely some kind of strengthening of the knees and the muscle and the feet, etc. No doubt about that, if it is done properly. But it will be more of a type of a sport.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be.
An example, ice skating. There are various types of ice skating, but some of it is made to be synchronized as an ice dance because of the dancing issue. the body contact between male and female is off limit, out. So
it's similar to anything, whether it's any legal statute, you'd have to analyze it to see where it contravenes. So somebody is asking the question, how about creative arts? How creative arts could or would play out in an Islamic setting?
Khan has
I'm not
left
sure
the
what
meeting alert.
what the brother means by that. Do you want to elaborate? Do you want to ask directly?
but as I said, this is just general line. This is not really digging things into the fine details and legalistic points. It's just a general idea. So you don't need to bother, for example, a new technology is developed for planting. At face, it's okay. We can't take it over unless some of it contradicts a certain Sharia
Oli has
prohibition.
left the meeting alert.
Yeah, to start with, at face. For example, many people say, adopting like fast food and so on is American culture. It's not American culture. It's part of urbanization. It solved the problem for people who cannot go home quickly for the lunch and so on. Is it the most desirable one health-wise and so on? That's another issue. But it is part of urbanization. It's a solution for those who cannot go home
Zaydun
for lunch
Al-Kindi
or
has
cannot
joined the
have lunch
meeting alert.
packaged with them for taking from home. So they can't go to the... there are issues there, maybe, for example, the type food and so on, and but this is because of the laws regulating big agra and so on, coming from another disease, not because it's a fast food, because the material of it is made in such a way that it may be not sufficiently healthy, and that has to be looked at and scrutinized properly.
Professor, here I want to make also a point is that Sheikh Bassam Jarrar, he also differentiates between urbanization and civilization and gives a similar definition to yours. So he says that civilizations, that the manifestation of ideas and concepts of certain communities. So in that particular, we have like
it should be then culture, hadara, etc. in Arabic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
While urbanization, he says that the manifestation
He doesn't use
of
the
the
word
material.
urbanization. I don't think he used it.
I think he used the Madaniyyah indeed to
Yeah,
describe.
Madaniyyah is civilization. That's the problem. Madaniyyah. That's the reason I split urbanization. But it's okay. It's good. It's essentially most likely he read the things written by Hizb al-Tahrir. Because
Right.
this is essentially Sheikh Taqi who started this in such a way. Because the West talk about Western civilization, which is a mixed match of urbanization and hadara, and then even culture.
Thaqafa, yes, indeed.
So that's a problem. So it's better we go with the 4 division and give examples, and then from that it's easier to see how to analyze other nations, the way they live, the way they have profession, the way they train, the way they do science and technology, etc.
Yes. So to Sheikh Bassam Jarrar, urbanization and Madaniyyah is the materialistic manifestation of the human development. For example, the way you build skyscrapers, the way you enhance the roads, the way you develop the day-to-day living of the human being.
For example, that's include civil engineering. And most architecture, although some aspects of architecture are like special Madaniyyah or special urbanization, like for example, how to design inside the house. You have in the case of designing a house for Muslims, you will put great weight that there will be, for example, the kitchen is not an open space with the living room, because in the living room you may have guests who are foreign to your wife, and your wife will be then obliged to have hijab inside the house, which will be a hardship. But if the kitchen is separated, for example, the so-called open plan style is nice and accepted in America. But in America, your wife can appear in front of the guests and so on with bikini, no problem. But that's not in a Muslim house. So if you design it this way, you will put the landlady under duress that she has to be wearing for the full Islamic dress.
Absolutely.
So it should be avoided in designing houses for Muslims.
Exactly, and this answers the question that the brother he asked earlier just now. Is that this this architecture is completely different from a Muslim perspective. For example, we have like the garden, the house garden is built inside of the inside of the house,
So that
surrounded by the walls.
You have privacy, and you have the lady of the house is not obliged to hijab, and she can have a sun bath in all privacy without any problem. But with the garden this way in the West, they have no problem, because she can be half naked or completely naked in her garden and have a sun bath.
And the neighbors looking at
they
her.
don't have any issue with aura. Yeah, maybe just a very limited aura, extremely limited in the public life. That's it. But no real concept of aura in that sense. Full body. So Muslims solved that problem in time past, is that the garden and so on, and the yard, the internal, where the lady can, especially the lady of the house, because men can go outside and have a sun bath or sit in front of the house, but the woman cannot do that unless they are having full. If they have the full Islamic dress, then which kind of sun bath is that? It's no good. So, but in the yard, internal yard, you can have the skin piece of clothing. That's your own house, your private area. That's an example.
Yeah,
so
and usually it's
although architecture itself is an objective science, but how to distribute the livelihood and the kitchen and so on, take into consideration that the people living there have a concept of aura, a concept of shame, different than the other one. That's where the contamination with the point of view and may come. So this has to be cautiously considered.
Okay. Yes. Understood. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I'm the Swedish cow, Muhammad. I just wanted to ask. So technically, then, in the setting that we have today, where you might see opposite sex in movies or in masrahiyya TV shows, that would technically be like forbidden, or would that be a very problematic thing?
But what has that to do with Madaniyyah and so on?
No, I'm thinking more like in terms of creative art. Isn't that then?
If a Muslim produces a movie, he will. If he produces a movie, he will take care of these things. A kafir will not take care of it. So what's the question?
Yeah,
in terms of importing it, Sheikh, if you're as Muslims in an Islamic society, you have foreign produced movies.
The Madaniyyah is that what you do and produce, not what you import from someone else. How you are going to are you going to import a house from outside? No. You see, but you get a design. That design does not apply here. Which is, for example, this open plan design, which will make the life miserable for the lady of the house if she's committed, as she should be, to the Islamic dress.
Okay.
But the movies are something you can read, like books. A book written by someone who said may have argument for atheism and so on. You can take it and read it, to study what is there and refute it.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Yeah. You see, the question is not clear. You are asking what a Muslim should do with these movies. He should.
Yeah. I think I'm thinking more in terms of like
talking about the society and life. And
absolutely.
No, this is something else. That's something else. Yeah, this is another issue. This is what an individual should do. We're not talking about how a society or a group of people living in a land, what is their urbanization, their
not about adapting, but rather like if we would
comprehensive human experience in a society, not a single person, his single prohibition and so on. Yeah. But these are valid questions, but not in that context, in another context. Yeah.
Another brother had the question as well, shall I put on the plate? Far away.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Just wanted to ask a question about the economic system and banking, where this concept really is very, very confused. Yeah, that we find that people are mixing all kinds of stuff into the into the what they call the Islamic finance or Islamic banking system and these type of things. Yeah. Now, it seems that Muslims are fighting an uphill struggle for them to adopt these type of things.
Let's take banking. You brought a very important example. Banking, keeping records, getting the cashier in certain way, putting shielding glasses, putting alarm bell to alert the police if someone wants to steal. All of these things are part of Madaniyyah, urbanization. Making a usury contract is prohibited, but contract, how to write contracts, how to study contracts, how to formulate them, is knowledge, it's science.
But things like 2 contracts in one in some of these
that's how to write the contract, how to construct the contract. But how to make contracts, what contracting, how to formulate legal language, you can study in America to formulate a legal language. They may have sophisticated contracts that you go through the contract. Where is anything related to usury? You cross it out. Simple. But the wording and the obligations so on, some of it may not compliant with Sharia. Like, for example, I gave that example many times, the wisdom in prohibiting a condition and sale, which is still valid after the sale and the goods have transferred, or the real estate have transferred. That's what they have in the common law, in the English and American one, called the covenant. You, for example, you cut a land from the forest, and it becomes your land, and you cut it into pieces and sell it to other people with the condition that you cannot sell, you and the one buy from you, until Yawm al-Qiyamah. There's a covenant connected to that land from the initial one, that it should be sold only to blacks or to Caucasian. There are conditions like that in America, especially in the northern part. Many real estate there, it is from the founding time, 150 years ago and so on. There's a covenant that can be sold only to Caucasian. This is invalid from the beginning. But doesn't mean that the way recording deeds and so on is not, that's a part of urbanization. How to keep records, writing down. But what is written down, some of it's prohibited.
The second question I've got is the term urbanization is often used, and when people normally think about it, it's to do with the economics and how people.
I know, but I invented that word just to separate civilization into the material part and the ideological part. Just an invention. If you find another better word, fine. Suggest I couldn't find anyone.
From CPA tax to every.
In Arabic, we have Madaniyyah and Hadara.
Can you please ask?
So what's the need to
we don't have in English something like this. It's all called civilization.
Jazak Allah.
They have culture. Culture is something else.
How do you feel this adds to the way that the Hizb defined it? Yeah, in terms of.
It's a Madaniyyah خاصة, Madaniyyah عامة, etc. But I have some.
You've just taken into more furu, into more branches.
It's more precise and more clear. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Essentially that, with a little bit more polishing and things which will come later. Yeah. Just a slightly improvement on that. That one is good enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just basically more a more broken down understanding, so you can break it down in multiple angles to people.
You can see it. Take the Hizb one. There's no problem.
Yeah.
Just I gave a special name. Hizb use Madaniyyah خاصة in the Madaniyyah, and use Hadara and Thaqafa. I split Madaniyyah. I split it into urbanization. Then we have Madaniyyah, and then we have Hadara, and we have Thaqafa. So we will see. It will come. You will see. It's just I think it's a slightly cleaner subdivision and a little bit more clarification. But the essential meaning is the same. The essential meaning is there, yeah. Nothing special there, except the word, having the word.
Does it have any other practical import in terms of the fact that you have general permissibility?
It will come. But we have the general permissibility anyway. This is the Sharia ruling. All human activity are basically permissible. That's not the Hizb point of view. But we're talking about the human activity. For example, the Japanese live a certain way of life.
Because from memory, there were certain distinctions that I can't even remember, but stuff like how certain things, like you gave the example of the way the house is structured as being reflective of a certain ideology.
Yeah, we discussed that. That's it. Yeah, that's it.
But did they? But yeah, you know, I can't do justice to it. So if anyone else is in the Hizb,
No, that's essentially what you're doing here. Essentially what Hizb did. That's nothing special there.
But they had some other spin on it in terms of how they look at history as well as being reflected. They almost said
that's
application.
that's expanding the issue so it becomes like a volume instead of just a section or chapter. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. What's the characteristic of the Japanese civilization? What the characteristic of the Americans and so on? That's more expansion. That's it. Yeah, that's more expansion. But we are going to be just when you face what's going on in the world, what people are developing, science, technology, professions, various things and so on. What is really part of dunya which can be taken with a bit of caution, obviously, because there may be some contamination, and what is part of deen which cannot be taken and even considered in the first place. Yeah. So an attempt to make a little bit subdivision and clarification, a little bit, in interaction with other nations and so on. Good? Okay. It's not necessary. And also to clarify, like, for example, you find many people, this country, they're adopting American civilization, they have McDonald's. McDonald's is not an American civilization. It's part of urbanization. It's a way to and also drive in, drive through. So this makes things easier so you can pick up things quickly and go. That's making life easy. It's a technicality. It's a technicality, without any doubt. It's a technicality. So if you find McDonald's or something similar to McDonald's in Muslim countries, that's no problem. Or even if the Khilafah established, it may have something like McDonald's and even maybe better and improved. It will be improved in the quality and so on because of the Islamic injunction to be perfect, especially concerning food and so on, to be more cautious and more clean. While these guys are coming from a background of a religion which eats everything, including predominantly pigs, but everything, including snakes and so on. Culturally, in some places, they don't eat snakes, but the Chinese eat everything. Everything which crawls or fly will be eaten in China, for example. You see my point? But the fact that you can't do it in a fast food way and so on, that's part of Madaniyyah. It's not an issue which you should be stopped and say, I cannot take it. It's an American characteristic for American. It's not characteristic. It's an American invention, part of a human activity, which makes things easier for people who cannot go home and cannot have a packed lunch with them. That's it. Yeah? Is it clear now why we are doing that?
Yeah.
Just to see what is going on in the world, what can the Muslim as an ummah or the nation adopt?
Sheikh, I've got I don't know, a point on this here that I think where we're lagging behind is that we're not addressing the issues, which is a very, very important issue, and a lot of people are looking for solutions, and there's a lack of general clarity because we're not picking the right examples to be addressing on a continual basis. So to break this concept down and pass it on to the Ummah and to the Muslims at large, we need to be addressing things like, new things which are coming in, like, cryptocurrencies and NFTs and things like this. How can you take these on with this concept in mind, to break this concept down in order that, we kind of publicize that so that people have awareness on these kinds of concepts. And I think all of us, whatever movements.
That will come under that, yeah. This is from the category of urbanization, like cryptocurrencies, for example.
Yeah. So we need to have some kind of like a program to push these ideas out into the Ummah on a continual basis. Yeah. To use the same concept, but to push that particular concept, because it's very important that people start to understand the distinction between, like you said, urbanization.
Yeah, if you have general principle, then in every case it makes the mind ready to analyze things better. That's it.
That's it. Yeah, and it's important to do that because without that, the status quo continues.
Yeah. To prevent something happening like with the printing press, this invented by the kuffar, khalas. It's just a way to print. Yeah. And then there was a prohibition and things like that. As made by the kuffar, there's something suspicion there. That's nonsensical. Imagine if you do that. Or the kuffar also in time past were using also transcribing and instead of printing, making copies by hand. We were making copies by hand. Has nothing to do with Kafara Mu'mineen. How are you going to make a copy of a book? In time past before the machine, it was done. Now a machine is invented. Why the Khilafah Uthmaniyya and the Mashayikh got stuck with that? I think that's one of the motivations for Sheikh to discuss these things. From the kuffar, there must be something sinister there. No, has nothing to do with that. Look at its reality. It's just a technology. Instead of drawing every letter by a pen, you put it in a shape, put it in a plate, and then do the process. Then you can make thousands of copies, tens of thousands of copies, instead of in one day, instead of having 1,000 people working and so on. As a technology. Now the question, do you adopt it immediately if you have, for example, full houses of scribes, how to find new job for them? That's a policy of the Ummah to manage that for them. They have to have a substitute jobs and so on. But this is how to get jobs for them, for living. It's not the issue that the printing is an improvement or it's a good progress forward. It's a good progress forward. That has to be adopted.
It's quite similar to AI.
There should at least no prohibition. Even if you want to buy your own printing press and start printing, go ahead and do it. The state may not adopt it in mass because there's so many scribes who are living from that, and then transition them to other jobs is needs some time. That's another issue. That's a consideration which cannot be neglected. No doubt about that. But that has had nothing to do with the printing press being suspicious because it's made by the kuffar or not.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's many
issues. My point.
Rashid to everyone.
I mean, for example, healthcare. Now, healthcare, Muslim countries kind of rolling it out as they do with the World Health Organization.
What was that? Healthcare?
Farouk has left the meeting.
Healthcare, for example, some of it is very ideological and it's coming from the West. Yeah. So, for example,
explain. No, I don't understand. You just mentioned a word. I have no idea what the word means.
Healthcare. I mean, the healthcare industry. Yeah, hospitals and doctors and how you treat people. So in the West
how
now,
for example, something else, but what has to do with the healthcare industry?
So for example, Muslims in the Muslim world, what's rolled out in terms of how hospitals and the best practice for how hospitals are run.
That's part of Madaniyyah. You study the best practices.
But there's also an element of it which isn't just to do with the
What's
means
the element?
and forms
Give
of
me an
things,
example. So we can
for example,
now.
in Canada, for example, as part of the healthcare, they're going to start trying to offer people, assisted dying. Yeah, if you don't feel
that's something that's happening to healthcare, for God's sake, that can be available even 1,000 years ago before the modern healthcare. What has to do with healthcare and hospitals and having hospital management and have certain...
but they're offering it as an option, yeah? So those things which are getting
rolled out... Don't worry about the option. That is the ruling. What can be offered is assisted dying permissible or not. But it can be done. Yes, we do it for animals, for example. That's exactly like fertilization.
Yeah, but human beings is not allowed, is it?
Allowed or not allowed, not our discussion. We have to discuss that. The same with fertilization.
So the point I'm making is that there's so many topics now, yeah, that are right, because this wasn't a discussion.
I think
it still did not say. The issue of fertilization, in vitro fertilization, can be done for animals and humans. Can be done safely and biologically correct. Yeah. Is it permissible to use for humans? That's the Sharia injunction comes. But in itself is a technology. It's a science.
Yes, fine.
Yeah, that's it. The same with assisted dying. Are we allowed to assisted dying? We have to study Sharia injunction about that.
Yeah.
The other things, it is used for animals, for example. When they have cancer, you don't treat them. You just dispatch of them, for example, pets.
But what's implemented in healthcare systems in
don't worry, that will be discussed by the Muslim in due course. But we are discussing now the objective reality of developments coming from the kuffar to us. What can be taken over, what cannot be taken over. That's it. If you see healthcare, the issue of assisted dying is one point of possible healthcare offered by them because permissible in them. It is not permissible. The same with, for example, in vitro fertilization. It will be offered in the Muslim domain, but from the husband, because it is a handicap for him to do the normal way. So,
Yeah. Okay.
You see my point?
Also-
That's the reason we have this discussion, to clarify these
No,
points.
I understand your point. But what I'm saying is, that we need to start thinking.
The problem
we
is
need to
that you use the
apply a
word
thought on.
the problem is that
contemporary
healthcare.
realities,
That's not what healthcare. This is one particular type of services of the healthcare.
Yeah, but I mean, if you were to really study the subject of healthcare, then you would find, there's many things.
I have
which
no
are,
problem with that. I
permitted.
know it may be that maybe many other things haram. No doubt about that.
Well,
No
in
doubt
terms
about
of,
that.
I think, look,
yeah,
if you understand,
this is a controversial issue, which
if you understand
The
general
problem with
history-
that is that this way, if you say healthcare, no, healthcare is a technology, is organization, management, etc., and so on. Now, the certain particular activity may be prohibited by certain Islamic law. That will not be taken over, but the other things can be taken over.
I think if you understand the concept,
How to give safely an injection. Technology.
if you understand the concept, it's about this differentiating between the basically a process of analyzing it yourself. Now,
Yeah.
this is not going to be the forum where you can go through every kind of example. Now, you mentioned about cryptocurrency. We have 2 videos on the subject of Islamic finance and cryptocurrency on our website, on the YouTube channel. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, all these kind of contemporary issues should be discussed, but they are in other forums. So the professor does direct broadcasts into the Arabic world anyway. So. And that's the Muslim world. In the
You
UK,
see
the
my
West would
point,
have a different.
this way, that's why Sheikh Taqi did that, because I think he was in his mind was that the issue that the Khilafah Uthmaniyya in earlier time did not take the printing press, which they should have taken over immediately and benefit from it, and it would have pushed the Muslim world into cultural, and even we were ahead of the West if we did that, but we didn't. This is one of the biggest catastrophes in Islamic history. Instead, they adopted Western law, saying, "Oh, you can adopt it as long as it doesn't contradict Islam." But he is objecting to that. It can't be, because laws and regulations must be derived from Islam. It's not contradicting, not contradicting. By itself, taking it is contradicting Islam per se, by definition. That's the reason Sheikh Taqi developed that, and then we subdivided and so on. So we see what we can take without much hesitation. There's not need to take it blindly. You have to check what's there. Yeah.
Okay, chocolate.
Yeah, that's the point of this side, to distinguish, and especially the hadith about you are more proficient or more capable in understanding good dunya. What does it mean? It will come later. It will clarify that further. Good.
Okay.
Yes, and a quick comment on what the brother was saying about cryptocurrency. And Rashid, you said that you got some videos on crypto.
Don't worry about it. I'll send in the link. Don't worry. Don't worry.
And
That's no problem. That's no problem. We have discussed that. Yeah, but it is at face. It is programming. It's mathematics. It is technology at face.
Yes, and the quick point I wanted to make was that like brothers like ourselves, we're not interested in terms of just making money for ourselves. So, for example,
brother, it's not related to
It's not
subject.
money. It's a halal or haram. It's not making or not making. We are not there. We are not doing basic cryptocurrency for that now.
Yeah.
Is the question, when people were faced with cryptocurrencies, they said, we cannot take it, we cannot adopt it, we cannot program it, and so on, because it's coming from kuffar, or because currency has to be something material and having intrinsic value, and so on, make a qiyas to dhahab and fidda, and so on. It has intrinsic value. We discussed that elsewhere. But you see, there's something more abstract. It maybe needs some thinking. Definitely, no doubt about that. But I think we should never get in the catastrophic situation like missing on the printing press.
Yes, I think it's important, and because these could be expanded into terms of many topics. The things when you check on Google, they're never connected to Tawheed. So this is a nice opportunity. For example, if I'm interested in
that's why we are discussing it as an introduction, to make a difference between dunya and deen. What can be adopted from dunya, and what's the deen which cannot be adopted. We have to take it from Quran and Sunnah. That's the fundamental point. But let's proceed. Now we have understood what's urbanization. Let us see what's the next one.
Would another way to describe this be what is?
As for hadara,
And what
civilization, it is commonly denoted as being a way of living, namely the total set of beliefs, concepts, morals, and criteria about life and its related culture that is derived from this. Indeed, many times the use of these terms overlap, so that the term civilization is used when the actual term is meant urbanization. Sometimes the two concepts are mixed up, resulting in misconceptions. The clarity of the perception of belief is marred by such confusion, and the process of taking a sound juristic attitude becomes difficult. Therefore, we should be accurate when dealing with these difficult concepts and take care that the meaning of a concept corresponds to the actual term itself, so that they do not overlap or become confused with one another. Otherwise, the creedal, intellectual, and practical consequences will be serious. It is true that the term civilization is close in its original meaning to that of urbanization. However, civilization is closer in meaning to denoting a particular way of living than urbanization, in that it relates to stable living within an urban environment and utilizes the practice of settled agriculture and industry.
Like, for example, if you listen to some American analysts and so on, they say our education system is not making our young people
Your internet connection is unstable.
Polished and more civil. What meaning more civil? More polished, more behaving like human being, more courteous, more capable of teamwork, etc., etc., etc. That is not urbanization. That is more in the hadara side. And also in Arabic, you go حضر الرجل. This man is متحضر or حضر, meaning he is polished. He knows how to behave. He is mannered, etc. Not that he has a better belt and better constructed whip or a better constructed horse, saddle or something like that. That's part of Madaniyyah. That's not a sign of hadara. A Bedouin who attends to horses and so on is may have better saddles, more suitable for racing. But if you live with him and see his behavior is the behavior of Bedouin, is rough, is not polished, is not mutahaddar, hadara. So in Arabic, hadara is really the pro translation for the important part of civilization. Why, for example, if for example the idea of using fast food chains and fast food and things like that, and people adopted from a certain country, that does not mean that they adopted that. And the American, the first one who developed that, does not mean that you are adopting American civilization or culture. It is just taking something, a technology on the way of managing things in an efficient and fast way. More of a technology side rather than ideological and behavior side. Yeah, you see, this is a very, very difficult concept to separate, because in human life they are quite well mixed.
Okay, and by lack of settlement, hunting and movement according to seasonal shifts. These are two different types of living which are clearly distinct. Although there are differences between life in cities as opposed to villages, both of which relate to settled living, the utilization of technology, crafts, etc., only differ by degree in these settings. In Arabic, the term hadara has been used to denote meanings related to thoughts. That is why it is much closer to expressing concepts. The Arabic dictionary that has that hadaru with a dhamma is similar to hadura with a dhamma is similar to nadusa. That is a man of eloquence and who is well learned in jurisprudence. And Lisan also points out that the rajulun hadar with a sukoon on the dal denotes a man of eloquence. So just going into linguistic stuff. So the term hadara is closer and more appropriate than urbanization in denoting a set of concepts, morals, and ideal values, i.e. how things ought to be, whereas urbanization is more appropriate in denoting material forms, i.e. how things are. It is important to bear in mind the essential difference between the content of both concepts. As for these terms, they should not be incontestable. Nevertheless, being accurate in selecting a term that corresponds or is close to the intended meaning is still important and required. The term thaqafa, culture, means all the sciences, knowledge, and crafts which the belief of such a civilization has instigated, and out of which they emerged. It could also denote the knowledge that influences the mind and its moral judgment upon matters like legislation, economics, history, language, and similar branches of knowledge. Thus, civilization and culture, which is a part of it, are necessarily biased and unique to each nation and people. It is related to the basic or fundamental beliefs that a nation holds. If such a civilization emanated from a comprehensive belief regarding the universe, man, and life, as in the case of the Islamic civilization and the democratic capitalist civilization, it would be considered a religious or ideological civilization. Civilization is always connected to the unique features of people, and the nation which emerged through historical development are not specifically derived from their religion. This way, the people have a non-religious based civilization. Although they may believe in a certain religion, their civilization is not derived from it. Therefore, it is a man-made civilization. Many modern people and nations, while embracing several different religions, follow the same civilization, like the Japanese, the Indians, the Americans, and the French, which is the Western democratic capitalist civilization. Islam has its own unique civilization and culture. The culture included the sciences of the Arabic language and those of the Deen, with its various branches. This civilization filled the world with light, knowledge, and guidance. Without doubt, this is the most perfect civilization in the whole world, which produced the largest number of books and references. Western commentators often brag about what they call human civilization. However, this is a false terminology, as they marshal it to refer only to their own civilization. Any serious objective study shows that this is a civilization based essentially upon the edifice of Greco-Roman paganism, with slight traces of the Christianity of Paul, not the genuine Christianity of Jesus, the son of Mary, peace be upon him and his mother, and a cursed racial Judaism, that of sinful scribes and rabbis who killed the prophets, not the genuine Judaism of the Torah and Moses, peace be upon him. Pauline Christianity diverged further several centuries after its emergence to become a spiteful and mistaken crusade. Western civilization is a purely local phenomenon that has nothing to do with the beliefs, thoughts, concepts, convictions, and customs of the rest of the world, no matter how the proponents of globalization brag and argue. The term was selected as it bears humanitarian and international connotations, so as to deceive the other nations in the world, and Muslims in particular, to cunningly drive Muslims out of their own deen. Embracing Western civilization falsely and living according to it inevitably entails Muslims reverting to kufr, misguidance, and to perpetual misery, and a permanent curse, ultimately ending in hellfire. The term is also strongly indicative of the racism and the arrogance of the West and its contempt for the rest of mankind. They claim that whatever is Western is humane and international, while whatever is non-Western and belongs to other nations is underdeveloped, backward, civilized, and barbaric. In the best scenarios, it is limited, local, and can never be universal. From the previous discussions, this shows that that Deen, in the eyes of the people of Islam, is not simply limited to pure ritualistic acts of or even beautiful manners and general morality, as it is within the Western concept of religion. In fact, it relates to all voluntary human acts upon which a legal Sharia judgment, Hukm Sharia, is made, whether it is intended as being pure worship, drawing closer to Allah in order to achieve a particular spiritual, devotional, or ascetic value, such as through the devotional acts of worship associated with prayer, remembrance, and supplication, or intended to achieve a congenital value. Honest, intended as achieving a humanitarian value, such as helping others suffering from loss, like in a war or in natural disasters, saving someone from drowning, regardless of race, color, or religion. People seek to gain a moral standing or praise or glory, wanting to obtain a material benefit such as a monetary one obtained by payment or trade. All of this division from optional human acts is considered within the domain of Hukm Shara. Adherence to the Hukm Shara is the spiritual side of worshipping in it. If a person wishes to realize worshipping Allah according to all its conditions, they must adhere to the Hukm Shara in all aspects. That would result in being a spiritual worshipper. Such an individual thus becomes worthy of praise and reward from Allah. Worship here means acceptance of contentment with and obedience to the command of Allah, emerging from the utmost love and glorification of Allah, constructed upon firm belief to the level of certitude. It is also the absolute belief that Allah is the one and only true God, necessarily existing, al-Hayy, the ever-living, al-Qayyum, the self-existing by whom all subsist, the first who is uncreated and eternal, without beginning or end. He acts as he wills, creating whomsoever he wills or chooses. He cannot be questioned regarding what he does. Nothing can reach his prerogative of command, and he is swift in taking account. In truth, this is spirituality, for it is a matter of consciousness and perception. There is nothing related to the matter of the spirit itself, or whether the man is composed of material and spirit, regardless of whether that is a valid line of reasoning or not. As for what some of the scholars have said, customs or mores become acts of worship if accompanied with a correct intention. Such wording is not strictly correct. Customs, or to be more precise, the permissible, does not turn into that which is the mustahab, recommended, or wajib, obligated, on the basis of certain intentions or consciousness. Whilst the one undertaking this may be deserving of a particular reward or perhaps even punishment, it is fundamentally not the same act. All of this will be detailed in a later chapter. I think this is probably a good juncture to kind of, because we've gone for 1 hour 45 minutes now, because the next chapter is distinguishing between Deen and Dunya. Do you think there's a good place to...
Yeah, good point. Yeah, we'll come to the hadith.
And also a good point for Abu Wahab to furnish us with some knowledge.
Yeah. So one quick note, Professor, I would like to push back against the idea that it's only Western civilization that has the arrogance and racism towards other culture. I think that's fine as long as this kind of civilization that they advocate for is universal. So for example, the Islamic civilization, I reckon from my understanding that it is universal. It covers Muslims and non-Muslims. Each has his own rights and his own duties. So in that sense, I would call Islamic civilizations as it is like of the highest or the most notable and the most noble among all civilizations. Some Western would call that arrogance, but as I said, I don't have a problem with that, because my civilization is universal for anyone, for everyone. But their civilization, the Western civilization, isn't universal and does not cover the Muslim rights and their way of living. Hence, their arrogance and their the way that they hold it high, this civilization is fallacious, actually. Because as I said, it's not universal. If it's universal, then I'm all with them. I'm all okay with them that they hold it high, and they try to apply to everyone else, as long as it's universal. The thing is that it's not universal. It's only unique to them. That's the thing.
Yeah, but if you want to look more in these details, there's the Clash of Civilization by Huntington, when he said the Western civilization enforce itself over the rest of the world because they have stronger and longer guns. That's it. Not because they are morally superior. So it's definitely spreading all over the world by force, by force of guns, or the force of money and exchange of currency, etc., which they control, since they have controlled most of the world in time past. through imperialism, and still it is not clean. It's not the decolonization is not complete yet. Definitely is not complete. Like look at India, for example. Maybe the British are out, but still substantial fraction of the Indian economy is owned by the British still. That's number one. Not only that, but also the laws and regulation are just are hatching now. The eggs laid by Britain. The ancient system of Islam, non-usury, etc., disappeared, and then British one in an organized way, because the Hindus have also a nasty usurious system, but it was not organized by the state, so it was less dangerous. But now it's organized through the Bank of England and so on.
Recording in progress.
Join it up. They can't join it up properly, so hence you have media propaganda to try to make black and white black. For example, Gaza.
Anyway,
they try to persuade the masses. So that was just a quick point, but so just confirming brother AH's point, and Abdul Mahab, is it?
Yeah. So as I was saying, I don't have a problem with the supremacy of civilization as long as it's universal and covers all different groups of people and communities.
Yeah, but this will be seen intrinsically by analyzing the civilization. If we analyze the Western one, they're themselves. I mentioned Huntington. If you check his book, he said we conquer the whole world because we have stronger guns. That's it.
Exactly.
We have moral values and higher morality. Yes.
Yes.
So that's it. But it's not the business of classifying which civilization is superior and inferior. We don't worry about that. Islamic civilization is that what the Muslim Ummah and every Muslim people should be living an Islamic civilization style life, which means complying with the Hakam Shari'iyah and the vision of the universe according to Islam. That's it. And this will be expressed, but that there will be no law regulations, especially banking, especially currencies and so on, which is not derived from Islam or which may contradict Islam. That's it.
Yeah.
Then civilization will emerge naturally, and the thaqafa will be the correct thaqafa, etc.
I'm just want to clarify if I've taken this correctly. So when you talked about urbanization, you talked about the material forms of things, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And when we're talking about Hadara, it's more on the intellectual level or thinking level.
Spirituality, morality,
ideological as well.
Mm-hmm.
I the things that you can't touch in terms of this, like
we cannot take because we have our own.
No. I mean things that the intangible, yeah, in terms of ideas and thoughts and spirituality and these type of things, yeah. So that's the definition of Hadara, is to do with those concepts that you take on board.
The most important, which really people may take or not take, is laws, regulation, things like that.
Yeah, and the difference between the Hadara and Thaqafa is that the Thaqafa is
more the books, the intellectual products, and so on.
Right. So, for example, when we say Thaqafa Ajnubiyya, that you have it's just the foreign culture which was invading the minds of the Muslims. Yeah. So when they take away, when they take people, intellectuals, to go and do.
That's in the case of Thaqafa, like for example, books about Das Kapital for Karl Marx. We can have it, we can read it and so on, but we're critical reading it not for adoption, read it for criticism, because we know it is emerged from another ideology and so on. So the way we look at it is that we look at it as critical, but it doesn't mean there's nothing called adoption or adoption. The books come from there, and we read them and analyze them and reject them or show where are the fallacies and so on. So you behave with it in a critical way. It's not produced by your own thaqafa. It does not mean that what produced your own thaqafa, your own books, also don't review and critical, because what produced your own thaqafa could have faults, could need to be improvement, could be advanced, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean, we used to use the term, that brother's got a lot of culture, right? This is an English term. I don't know if the brothers in the Arab lands or wherever.
Again, culture sometimes means some
he's studied the is studied about Islam, and he's using those ideas in order to live his life.
Which one you mean now? Do you mean a specific person or a specific something?
Okay, Jazakallah, inshallah. Well, let's quit while we're ahead. Hope you enjoyed it. Same time next week. And as the days get shorter, we can always bring it earlier as well, depending on the appetite.
Bit by bit, yeah.
But inshallah, apologies for the technical problems and Assalamu alaikum.
So.
Alert.